Hello, Trinity Youth. How are we doing today? We have completed our study of the book of 1 John, so now we're going to jump back into a few just more topical things. This kind of piggybacked a little bit off of the message that I gave Sunday, but it's kind of a long stretch, so I won't say it's directly connected. Let me ask you a couple of questions. How much time do you think that college and professional athletes spend practicing their sport? How about musicians? Do they know how to play and perform complex pieces without practice? What about you, some of you that are a little bit older? How many jobs have you been accepted for when you never submitted an application and you never went into any interview? How many good grades have you made by skipping every single class, doing no reading and absolutely no studying? I'm guessing on the low side. Maybe you're some kind of anomaly. All of these situations, and many, many more throughout life, have to do with intentionality. Let's try just one more. If you have no plans to do something on a Saturday, okay, like couch potato weekend, right? And absolutely no one, friend or foe, asks you to help them, asks you to join them, nothing. Nobody asks you to do anything, nobody expects you to do anything, and you have no plans to do anything. How much do you get done on that given Saturday? Now, I know the answer for me, personally, would be pretty much nothing. I would accomplish exactly sitting and no, the camera didn't freeze. That's what I would have accomplished doing on that Saturday. So, we generally accept, as a general rule, musicians and athletes have to practice, right? If we're honest, we know that in order to learn a new skill or obtain good grades, anything like that, effort is involved. Personal effort, personal thought, focused thinking, right? If you want to be productive in either work or leisure, some amount of concentrated effort is going to have to be put forth. Now, of course, if a spiritual leader is trying to convince you of the need for focus or intentionality, they will often quote Colossians 3, verses 23 through 24. Whatever you do, do it from the heart, as something done for the Lord and not for people, knowing that you will receive the reward of an inheritance from the Lord. You serve the Lord Jesus Christ. Let me come back here. Why am I mentioning all of these agreed upon instances, right? Everyone says no one's on the other side of this issue. No one's giving evidence to the contrary, right? So why am I mentioning all these? Because over the next few lessons, I want to bring up a few areas where intentionality absolutely makes sense, but is very often left out. Spoiler alert, money, relationships, dating, dates and marriage, and spiritual life. So today we're going to be focusing on money and finances and the intentionality that we ought to have and really does make sense to have, but we don't talk about very often, especially at the youth level. Sometimes we'll talk about it with the adults, but we pretend like you all don't have any money and have no interaction with money. Well, I know better than that. So, our society tries to tell you, and this is kind of in the future for you all, but just go with me on this. The society tries to tell you that as long as you can make all of your payments, you're doing well, right? But if you're making all those payments, you may not ever be able to save anything. How many of you save money regularly? How many of you have the capability of saving money? How many of you should save money but don't? Okay? Give that a couple of minutes to sink in. Think about it. But if you're never able to save because you're making all of your payments, what happens in an emergency? Now instead, what we should do, what the Bible teaches, we should realize an emergency, a surprise, it's going to happen, period. And we should save for those instances ahead of time, right? That makes sense, but we almost never do it. But in order to make those savings, we need fewer, smaller, preferably absolutely no payments, right? If you didn't have any payments, it'd be a whole lot easier to save some money, right? And if you have no payments and save more often, Then you have that special rainy day fund for when something crazy happens and it's not nearly as big of an emergency. Let's hear what Jesus had to say about money in Luke chapter 14, verses 28 through 30. For which of you, wanting to build a tower, doesn't first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, after he has laid the foundation and cannot finish it, all the onlookers will begin to ridicule him, saying, "This man started to build and wasn't able to finish." Sound a little familiar? Sound anything at all like what I just said about money? We need to know what's coming up. We need to know that sometimes we don't know exactly what's going to happen, and we need to save accordingly. Now, saving money is not wrong. Having money is not wrong. In fact, both are desirable in moderation and when it's not the focus of our lives. How could you be faithful to God in financially blessing someone else if you personally are always in a financial crisis? If you believe, as I do, that all we have, all we own, all good things that are given to us are from God, it's all His anyway, and we are simply watching over it, we're overseeing it. The Bible often calls this being a steward of what God has given us. Then we really need to know what God has to say about money. So here's a nice long parable. This is from Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 through 30. I'll read it, then we'll talk about it a little bit. For it is just like a man about to go on a journey. He called to his own servants and entrusted his possessions to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2 talents, and to another 1 talent, depending on each one's ability. Then he went on a journey. Immediately the man who had received 5 talents went, put them to work, and earned 5 more talents. In the same way the man who had been given 2 earned 2 more. But the one who received 1 talent went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants came and settled the accounts with them. The man who had received 5 talents approached, presented 5 more talents, and said, "Master, you gave me 5 talents. See, I have earned you 5 more talents." His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Share your master's joy." The man with 2 talents also approached. He said, "Master, you gave me 2 talents. See, I have earned 2 more." His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I shall put you in charge of many things. Share your master's joy." The man who had received 1 talent also approached and said, "Master, I know you are a harsh man, reaping where you haven't sown and gathering where you haven't scattered seed. So I was afraid and went off and hid your talent in the ground. See, you have what is yours." His master replied to him, "You evil and lazy servant. If you knew that I reap where I haven't sown and gather where I haven't scattered, then you should have deposited my money with the bankers, and I would have received my money back with interest when I returned. So take the talent from him and give it to the one who has 10. For everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have more than enough. But from the one who does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. And throw this good-for-nothing servant into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Now, a parable is a story with a theological meaning. It's not necessarily a history lesson. We're not saying that this exact instance occurred. This was a story with a meaning. It was a way to teach without maybe just coming straight out and saying the exact teaching. Now we know God is not a harsh man, reaping where he hasn't sown and gathering where he hasn't scattered seed. But as believers, we also know and believe that he has entrusted us to do his work with all that he has provided. And elsewhere in the Bible, you hear that God is the giver of all good gifts. So you can surmise everything that you have that is good has been given to you by God. And again, we as believers, we think of ourselves as stewards of what is rightfully God's, and that's why we need to treat everything in a correct way. If we grow the finances or any other substance, but we're talking about money, so if we grow the finances that he has us overseeing and we use it for his work, we're going to be rewarded. But the opposite, the negative of that, if we neglect his plan and we misuse what we've been given to oversee, we will not. In fact, we may well be punished. The Bible has over 2,000 verses that deal with money. That matters to God, right? If he gave us scripture to teach us what he desires us to know, and over 2,000 verses of it have to do with money, God cares about what you do with your finances. If he reveals that information about finances that often in his revelation to us, he cares. He wants us to know. He desires us to know, and he wants us to be faithful to what he knows and teaches us about finances. If we are to follow the first part of the greatest commandment revealed by Jesus, which is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, we must honor what God teaches about money. We have to honor what God teaches about everything. We have to give our whole lives to him, not just our Sunday morning at worship and Sunday school and sometimes Wednesday nights. That's not all that we give God. We give God everything we have because he gave us everything that we have. We need to make it work for him. We need to follow these parables examples, and we need to take what God does give us, use it in a faithful way so that we can multiply what we have, which was given to us by God, so therefore multiply what God has and give it back to him for his work. This is how we need to treat our money, our finances, our relationships, our more in-depth relationships, dating and marriage, and our spiritual life. We need to be faithful to God, which means simply doing what he teaches us instead of hearing what he teaches us saying, yeah, that's great, I'm going to go do my own thing, see you later. I hope this makes sense to you. And maybe in future we'll do a little bit more in-depth finance class, but I just wanted to get this part out there so that you realize, yes, God tells us what to do with money, and we need to follow it. All right. Feel free to drop any praises, prayer requests down below. I really hope that we will be together again physically soon, because I'm ready to get to know you again. I don't know. We were broken up so quickly that I almost feel like I'm going to have to reintroduce myself and you all to me, but I look forward to doing that because it means we'll be back together. I hope that's sooner rather than later. Maybe we'll have an update about that very soon. And until then, feel free to text, feel free to call, feel free to email, do whatever you need to do, get a hold of me. I'm here for you, and I want to serve you all. You all are my students, and I want to be your spiritual leader. But in order to do that, I've got to know what you all need. So don't hesitate to get a hold of me and tell me what you need or even what you want, because I'm here to enjoy life with you. We'll catch you next time. See you later. Bye.